Minister. It follows the adoption of a parliamentary investigative committee report today that established procurement breaches and possible perjury in the acquisition of Sputnik V vaccines at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, listen to the ranking member on the Health Committee, Minta Akando, addressing a news conference today.
All this while, we have been of the strong conviction that the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, would have done the needful. From all indications, it looks as though the President hasn't heard anything and he hasn't seen anything. And therefore, we as members of Parliament, especially on the minority side, by Article 82, will come by a motion. In fact, we filed a motion and we've gotten the required signatories to have to pass a vote of censure, so that probably the minister will be asked to stay away from the ministry because we find him incompetent. I mean, serious indictments were leveled against him per the report. The reason why we have filed a motion to pass vote of censure, so that the minister will have nothing to do with the Ministry of Health. I thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable, some say that you don't have the required number. You need 2/3 of the House, so you're only flexing muscles with the wind.
You know, this is Parliament. And if indeed we are working in the interest of the country, we are 275. I think that even those on the other side, which is the majority people, should support us. They should be able to support us in the interest of our democracy. Because from all intents and purposes, looking at the behavior and the composure of the President, especially when he was joking with such a serious matter, when he went into the minister's region, he's not going to fire the man. And therefore, we are an independent arm of government, and we must act as such, irrespective of where you find yourself in the House.
Well, as I indicated, that investigative committee report was delayed by from the plenary in Parliament and was adopted. It formed the basis of the minority's action. So, really, what did the committee establish? We're getting to know a bit more about this, and parliamentary correspondent Parker Wilson has been trying to secure a copy of this report, which, of course, has been under wraps in Parliament for so long. Parker, it came to light today. You've seen a copy, I understand. Fill us in on what the investigative committee established.
And this committee, by consensus, agreed on three key issues. If you look at the recommendations, it indicated that even though the situation in the country at the time, when you talk about COVID, the agreement was signed, was an emergency though, the minister should have gone through the due process of law and should have brought the agreement to Parliament. Again, they recommended that even in emergency situation, the minister ought to find time to communicate effectively and engage with the Committee on Health. And they went further to indicate that the committee found that the Ministry of Health did not comply with the requirement of Article 181 in respect of this agreement with Mrs. Al Maktoum. The minister said that he did that because of the exigencies of the time when COVID-19 posed public health crisis with highest fatalities. And there was urgent global search for vaccines, and at the time, material time, the agreement was signed. All government-to-government sources have failed, as the bilateral sources had communicated to the ministry that they would only be able to deliver in August 2021. And so the committee, by consensus, established that the minister did not seek parliamentary approval, did not seek prior approval from the PPE board, and so he breached a number of procurement agreements. And that is why this evening the minority has agreed to file a motion of censure against the minister.
Okay, Parker, stay with me, and we got a copy of that, the memo that accompanied this motion. Very quickly, Kweku is just joining me with that. Kweku, run us through the specific basis for the motion that they filed.
So, Evans, they start by saying that the decision by the minister to undertake international business or economic transaction. The decision by the minister to undertake economic transaction, procurement and supply of vaccines as Minister of Health with the private office of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum without prior approval of Parliament, contrary to Article 181 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. That's the first ground. The second ground is signing procurement agreement with the private office of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum and SL Global Limited without prior approval of the Board of the Public Procurement Authority under Sections 40 and 41 of the Public Procurement Act, Act 663, as amended by Act 914, which constitutes criminal offense under law. The third ground is dishonest procurement of Sputnik V vaccines from the private office of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum and SL Global Limited at the cost of $19 and $18.5 respectively, when the ex-factory price of the Sputnik V vaccine generally announced was $10, confirmed by the minister to the committee responsible for health. The other grave ground is that the minister calls payment in the sum of $2,850,000. That is a cedi equivalent of 16 million cedis, 331,000, to the private office of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum under void agreement with the private office of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum, yet fibbed and misrepresented to the ad hoc committee on oath that no payment was made under the agreement to the private office of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum, and thereby committing a crime of perjury. And so they have 6 grounds in all. But these 4 grounds, Evans, are the key issues that the minority raises, for which reason they want a censure of the minister.
Well, Parker tracked down the minister in question, Akufo-Addo Jumamenu. He managed to get a few words from him. He was categorical. He's really not fazed by this.
Filing the emotion of censure against you. What do you say?
I'm not aware of it.
You're not aware of the motion?
Yes.
So, but are you perturbed? Do you feel you could be? Yes.
Perturbed of what? What is my crime? That is why I said I don't want to talk to any journalist now. I will get too emotional over unnecessary bickerings and arguments. There was a committee. The committee's report has been adopted by the chamber, and I want to end there. Please.
Let's bring in the Minority Chief Whip, Muntaka Mubarak, who joins us on the telephone line. He managed to get all his 137 MPs to sign this particular document. Mr. Mubarak, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Good evening to you and your listeners.
Please clarify for me, the committee report that was adopted today made all these adverse findings against the minister. It didn't recommend what should happen to the minister?
Well, good evening to you and your listener once again. As you recollect very well, the committee was set up to find the facts. It was a facts-finding committee. So I know a number of people were saying that they didn't make so much recommendation. Yes, maybe it would have been ideal if they had gone ahead to make some definite recommendation. But you can remember, I mean, for those who were watching the proceedings, the posture of the chair, and if I tell you, even the committee report writing and the challenges that came, all that, they couldn't make much recommendation. But the fact of the matter was laid bare. I mean, all of us could see. I mean, those who watched the video, the proceedings on camera and read the report, the facts are very clear, and we have no doubt on our mind that with these facts, we were expecting that the President of the Republic will have taken steps to do the rightful thing. I mean, just as he did promise us when he was coming to save the public first. But unfortunately, he went to our colleague's conference, the minister's conference, and rather was like praising him. And the man has suffered, the man has done so well, they have fared well, and those who disregarding the facts. So it is very clear to us that if we are to wait for the president, he may never act. So then the minority, as part of our duty of playing oversight, and I say this, choosing my word very carefully, you know that when it comes to oversight, it's the work of Parliament. But over the years, because of unnecessarily excessive partisanship, the oversight has been left for only the minority to do. So for us, as the minority, on behalf of Parliament, we need to move ahead to ensure that sanity prevails. Yeah, so we kickstart the process, and let's see how it goes.
But you have a constitutional hurdle to cross here, because I just pulled up the constitutional clause on this. It says Parliament may, by a resolution supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all the members of Parliament, pass a vote of censure on a Minister of State. That, if you numerically, that boils down to 183. You are 137. You don't have the numbers.
Well, Evans, I would not want to go, deep into this, because then you will be saying things that may give people lead. You know, they had 137 plus 1, but we elected the speaker. Remember, the same is going to apply when it comes to removing or putting someone in office, and then the amendment of the Constitution. The Constitution itself is very clear. The vote is going to be by secret. So aside that, who says that when you are calling for an action, you are definitely going to look for a certain resource? You know that there could be possibly one or two outcomes, and you should be ready for it. For us, we believe that when we get to the floor and we have to canvass the issues and why this has happened, it is our hope that we'll have colleagues on the other side for this, in the national interest, to make sure that we do this to save our country. So we will continue to remain hopeful, and we'll continue to work very hard until maybe the vote is over.
I hear your hope and how hopeful you are, but the difference of 46 MPs is what you need. It's very different from the election of the speaker, where you simple majority wins the day for you.
I perfectly agree with you. Yes. So what makes you think that that's not possible? I want to believe that if you were listening to many commentators, including MPP commentators, when this issue came, what were they saying? They were saying that they were expecting him to resign so that he saves everybody. Meaning that many of them are in a firm belief that, a lot of wrong has been done. And therefore, as members of Parliament who have a responsibility, and you can see clearly wrongdoing, if you still want to remain partisan over that, well, it is up to you. But it is my hope that as many members of Parliament as possible will see the need for us to do the right thing, and therefore vote for his removal.
Your friend and colleague on the other side in the leadership, Alexander Fenyo-Marking, who is the Deputy Majority Leader, joins us now. Mr. Muntaka Mubarak, please stay with me. Mr. Fenyo-Marking, I'm grateful that you could join us here on Top Story.
The pleasure is mine, and I'm equally grateful for the opportunity to share my own views on your respected platform.
So what do you make of this move by the minority side to move this motion of censure?
Well, I think the motion will fail. It is not founded on the recommendations made by the committee. The committee concluded its work by consensus, and by consensus, we approved the report at the plenary. To me, it's an exercise in bad faith for the minority to do a U-turn to now move a motion of censure. If you look critically at the report, we made certain recommendations. Key among them was the need to get a refund of the unsupply doses. You and I know that even before we moved the motion on the floor, steps had been taken, and indeed a confirmation of the refund, was announced, and all of us as committee members validated and verified that information. To me, that brought a closure on the matter. You see, if you want to say the minister has done something untoward, point to it specifically. And the next question is whether or not that supposed concern of yours is so grave that it would amount to having to move a motion for censure. Well, I won't take away that right of the minority, but I think that it's politically inappropriate that today we have, unanimously and by consensus approved of our report. I believe that in all fairness, if we want to proceed on the terms of our own rules of engagement, then we should not go outside of the recommendations of committee.
What did the committee recommend, by the way?
The key issue was on the refund. That was the key recommendation. Now look, there was this arrangement, and unfortunately, at the time, Al Maktoum had indicated that it could not supply. The contract had since been repudiated by them, so there was really no contract. However, an LC had been established. Be that as it may, we expected the state, that is through the executive, through the Ministry of Health, to recover. They did so swiftly. Again, the minister told us, and we agreed that indeed that was the case, that because of the exigency of the time, he took those steps, and then knowing that there was a need for AG to still validate an aspect of the agreement, he proceeded to AG's advice. Of course, AG had indicated that the matter was supposed to come to Parliament. And the minister told us that he was actually preparing a memo to Parliament, and it was overtaken by events. That notwithstanding, we recommended that in future, no matter how urgent the matter is, the minister has his health committee is to try and engage them. This was also contained in our recommendation, and it's been accepted. So to me, once Parliament has approved of the report, we would have to communicate the action part, what has to be done and all that. Then we let the Committee on Health further engage the ministry. And that's how it is. But if you suddenly then jump the ship and you say, oh, I'm moving a motion of censure, then we are not doing justice to our own bona fides as members of Parliament.
The 2.8 million, it's been recovered and verified by the committee?
Yes. That is, as a matter of fact, yes. The strict advice, there's transfer, everything. We gave it out to all members, even before our committee report was finalized. And it is contained even in all the argument we made on the floor. And that one, I can say so on good authority.
I also read in the committee's conclusion that there were a breach of the Constitution Article 1815 and procurement regulations. Surely there should be some consequence for the minister for that.
No, let's appreciate the findings of the committee in context, and not to take it out of context to put out a general position on it. On the aspect of the PPA, we never made findings against the minister, because at the time of our report, the PPA itself was still proceeding with its work and had not completed it. So that issue does not come in. Yes, on the Article 181, the committee was emphatic that yes, there were two contracts. The SL Global, as for that one, is a Ghanaian company. So there's no problem. There's no requirement for 181. However, for Alma 2, it was stated that, look, in future, it has to come to Parliament before. The minister's argument was that, yes, if he had no intention of coming to Parliament, he wouldn't have sent it to AG for advice. Normally, in coming to Parliament, they attach the AG's advice to their memo. And he was acting on, because of the exigencies of the time, that suddenly the debt rate had gone up and everybody was calling for government to take action, and we were not in normal times and we needed the vaccines in. Now, because of that, he felt that, look, it would be prudent to take action to save lives than otherwise rely on procedural steps and all those bureaucracy, which would take time. Meanwhile, he was acting in that manner to save lives. We appreciated it, but we still said, yes, upon AG's advice, he was preparing a memo to come to Parliament for us to engage. But we advised him that, yes, as a committee, we agree. But you have a health committee. And at least you should have called the health committee to brief them, which he took it in good faith. And that is why we recommended that in future, all such issues that he considers as urgent national issues, at least he has his health committee to brief them. Once you do your health committee, at least they can also report on things. So, to me, we brought a closure. But you see, the question is, I think that our colleagues in the minority are being overly partisan. Look, we have approved of a report by consensus. The report requires certain actions to be taken. We did not recommend censure. So this thing that is coming up is just coming out of nothing.
Clarify for me, because I also see in the motion that a minority filed with the Speaker for censure that there's a claim that the minister before your investigative committee perjured himself by claiming that no amount of money had been paid, only for you to discover later that indeed we paid 2.8 million.
That is not correct. Again, that's another misrepresentation. This matter was clarified and we brought closure to it. You see, the minister in his answer to us on a particular question had said with emphasis that to the best of his knowledge, at the time of making that talking to us, he could not confirm. And in fact, let me tell you, when we were doing our final report, this matter became an issue of debate. So we called for the case. The vice chairman of the committee, my good self, and the majority leader who came in to resolve the issue. We called for the tape. The class played the tape. You see, this is one of the things that sometimes things get out of the media and they accuse ministers of state falsely. We played the full tape, and it became clear that indeed he had not lied to the committee. All right? Now we again explain the process. They initiate as a ministry. When they initiate it, it goes to the Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance would move to Controller and Accountant General. Controller and Accountant General would rely on Bank of Ghana. And then when Bank of Ghana takes action, because it's Bank of Ghana that would do the SWIFT and all that. When they get the SWIFT advice, they follow the same bureaucracy, that chain, through Controller to Finance Ministry, and then they finally communicate to the Ministry of Health. Now, there are two things here. The down payment bit and the aspect of the LC. The LC obviously was a deferred instrument. And he was asked a question on the deferred instrument. And he was saying that, well, at the time, deferred instrument, because you need to supply, present your bill of lading to your bankers, then you can cash on it. Without the supply, you cannot cash on it because it's an instrument for payment. You need to perform to trigger payment. But there was some misunderstanding. However, we made sure we called for the tape. All these things were clarified before both of us appended, a signature to the report.
I mean, Mr. Muntaka Mubarak, what's your response to that? That this is being overly partisan when all the things have been clarified, the money's recovered and verified.
Evans, this is so funny. I sometimes wonder whether my deputy majority leader is listening to himself. One, it is clearly the minister lied under oath when he said no payment has been made. He himself just admitted that he initiated the process of Minister of Finance to pay the suppliers. In the very contract that he signed, they were supposed to supply before they received payment. How come that they received payment before supplying? And he was also you just heard him say that, the refund came while the committee was. I challenged him that is inaccurate. It was after even Parliament had debated the report, the confusion, we couldn't adopt the report. Parliament adjourned before they got the refund. Go check all these dates. The dates are there. And the video were listened by, the proceedings were watched by the whole world. It wasn't we alone. The proceedings were watched by everybody. You could see clearly the breaches in the procurement. It was never true that he never breached any procurement, 40 and 41, the sections of the Procurement Act. He did. And that's very, very clear. Go check the proceedings. And it's also in their report. So, you see, I would simply tell my colleague that, yes, you are talking about politicking. You are just defending the indefensible, struggling to defend what cannot be defended. Every person who knows how these processes go would tell you that the minister, he lied under oath, both at committee and in that committee proceedings. Because at the committee, remember, I'm a member of the health committee, he told the committee of parliament during parliamentary budget hearing that it was going to cost, they were not going to buy these vaccines beyond $10. That's what he said. Only to realize that now they are buying some as high as $19. These are the breaches that we are talking about. And even procurement authority is up. Even when you were talking about this advice, it was after this whole thing has happened. Now there's a parliamentary probe to be set up. Then he now rushes to go to seek for Attorney General's advice. And even with that, they told him to get parliamentary approval. And he never took steps to do that. So let's not try to make it look as if people didn't watch the proceedings and now we are retelling a story that is different from what truly happened during the proceedings. The proceedings are very clear, the videos are there, the documentations, everything is there. So he should rather stop the excessive partisanship and be factual. That look, the minister, yes, like himself said, agreed that there were a lot of breaches. The excuse that because of the exigencies of the time is not tenable, because Parliament, we see them do it every day. Oh, this is so urgent. We want to take it through all the steps in one day. Both sides then look at it and say, okay, why did you have to wait till now? But since, time is running against us, we'll do it. Start the process from the beginning to the end in a day. Why didn't you exploit that process?
I see the constitutional provision says a debate must happen now in 14 days once you filed and notified at least for a week. So you expect this debate to happen. The minister will have his day before you.
Definitely on the floor of Parliament, everybody will have his day, including the minister.
I'm grateful, Muntaka Mubarak. I'm grateful, Afanyo Marking, for your input into this. You've had both sides on this. Now that the motion has been filed, and the minority side have met the constitutional threshold for this to be now considered by the House. It definitely now gets to the domain of eventually voting on the matter. They need 2/3. As I've said, more than 180 MPs must vote with them for the minister to be removed, and it comes down to numbers. But they need more than 40 MPs to join them from the majority side. Can they get this through? Let me hear your views on this. Let's get a quick further clarity on this from Mr. Fenyamark in a few seconds before we wrap up on this. But I want to hear from you on this unfolding matter and where we are now. You've had both sides. I wonder what your take is. Send me 055-111-1997. Mr. Fenyamark.
Yes, Evans, just for the record, it is not correct that the Honorable Minister only went to the AG for advice when the committee hearing started. That is not correct. My respected colleague is misleading the public. The date on his letter to the Attorney General would exonerate him. He sent a memo to the AG long before even the issue came to the House floor. That is one. Two, it is again not correct that the refund was made after Parliament had considered the report. I say it on good authority as the chair of the committee that even before we moved the motion, the refund had been made, and his colleagues on the committee are aware of it. We were given evidence of the swift advice, and we verified and validated. Let us be fair the way we treat our colleagues, especially so when the minister is a member of Parliament. Let's be fair to him. Two, it is never correct, with emphasis, it's never correct that the man lied under oath, because when the issue became contentious, we called for the tape, and their side listened to the tape, our side listened to the tape, and they themselves conceded that, contrary to their earlier position, the minister never lied to us. That is why, in our report, we never made findings against him on that. So I am surprised that my respected colleague will now attempt to relitigate a matter that was closed. There must be an end to litigation. It is fair that when there is closure to a matter, we all move on as a nation. But it's like they are personalizing the matter, that is like at all costs go after Ajimamenu. If it's a personal attack, they should let us know. Well, but if we want to deal with the issues, now they are saying that PPA, procurement breaches and all that. We never made such findings. I signed the report. The Vice Chairman Akando from their side also signed the report. There was no such findings as breaches of the Procurement Act. It's not there.
Well, I'm grateful for your time. The beauty of this is now this will go to the floor for a proper debate on this. Fenyamark is a deputy majority leader. Earlier he had the minority chief whip Muntaka Mubarak. Still ahead on Newsnight, exclusive details on how MPP regional chairman Kwame Bafo allegedly justified his claim that former President John Mahama was plotting to stage a coup. We have details as he pleads not guilty to the charge of publication of false news. But tonight we ask also, is the police abusing this law? We speak to a lawyer, but Communications Minister wants even tighter sanctions